Hello everyone. So you are going to see at least one question from this topic in your JEE exams. To crack this, let us solve 5 important questions from this topic. Let us move to first question. An object with mass 500 grams moves along x-axis with a speed v equals to 4 root x meter per second. The force acting on the object. So we have to find what is the force acting. So the mass of the object is given as 500 grams. Now if we convert this into SI unit, we have to divide this by 1000, which gives 0.5 kg. The velocity is given as 4 root x meter per second. To find out the force, we need acceleration. Now acceleration is given as dv by dt, but this velocity is not in terms of time, but it is given as a function of x. Now we have one more, we can calculate this as dv by dx into dx by dt. Now dx by dt itself is the velocity, so we can write acceleration as v into dv by dx. So let us find out this term first, which is dv by dx. So we have to differentiate the velocity with respect to x. Velocity is given as 4 root x. If we differentiate this, 4 is constant and root x का derivative होता है 1 upon 2 root x. So this gives us 2 upon root x. dv by dx comes out to be 2 upon root x. Now if we have to calculate acceleration, so acceleration is v into dv by dx, right? Velocity is given in the question itself, which is 4 root x, and dv by dx we have calculated it here. Let us put it here. So which is 2 upon root x. Now this root x gets cancelled, so acceleration comes out to be 8, 4 to the 8 meter per second square. Now we have to calculate the force. So force is mass into acceleration. Mass was given in the question itself, which is 0.5 kg, and acceleration we have calculated here, which is 8 meter per second. So 8 into 0.5, which is 8 ka half, which comes out to be 4 Newton. So this is the answer. Here the main concept was acceleration is dv by dt, or we can write it as v into dv by dx. So let us move to next question. So let us move to second question. Now the second question says that a body of weight 200 Newton is suspended from a tree branch through a chain of mass 10 kg, and the branch pulls the chain by a force equal to how much? So we have to find out what is the force that is on the branch, and the body of mass 200 Newton. So let us try to draw the diagram. First thing, let us say this is the branch of the tree, and there is a chain which is tied to this, and there is an object which is of a mass 200 Newton. This chain itself has a mass of 10 kg. So first thing, for calculating the force, what we need is here the force, that is the weight. So the weight of this object is given as 200 Newton. We have to calculate this weight of this chain also. So for calculating the weight of the chain, which is m into g, mass of the chain is given as 10, and the gravitational acceleration is given in the question itself to be taken as 10. So 10 meter per second square. Now this becomes 100 Newton. On the branch, if I draw the free body diagram, so branch पे नीचे के डायरेक्शन में एक फोर्स लगेगा, which is of the chain as well as of the object. So the branch will have a force which is equals to weight of the chain, which is 100 Newton, and the weight of the object, which is 200 Newton. So the total force on the branch comes out to be 300 Newton. So here our option A is the correct option. Now don't think that I have chosen easy questions. This is actually a question from previous year JEE Mains. Okay, so I am going to take mostly all of the questions will be from JEE Mains previous year, or maybe from NEET previous year questions. So let us go to third question. Okay, so this question is less than from a laws of motion point of view. It is more like a vectors question. Okay, so the diagram is given over here. A mass is hanging whose weight is given as mg over here, and the one of the string is attached at an angle of 60 degree, and other string is attached at the angle of 30 degree, makes an angle of 30 degree. So this object, this whole system is in equilibrium, is given in the equilibrium. So the question says body of mass 1 kg is suspended with the help of two strings. Magnitude of tensions are T1 and T2, and what we have to find is this T1 and T2. The acceleration due to gravity is taken as 10 meter per second square. So let us first draw the free body diagram of this object. So here is the object. Downward force is mg. This T2 is having an angle of 30 degree, which means this will be resolved as T2. This since this is 30 degree, so this is T2 cos 30 degrees, and in the vertical direction it will be T2 sine 30 degrees. Now here, and the T1 tension 1 angle, it makes an angle of 60 degree here, which means in the horizontal direction the tension is, if we resolve the vectors, then in the horizontal direction it will be T1 cos 60 degrees, and in the vertical direction, again in the upward direction, it will be T1 sine 60 degrees. Okay, so if we look at this and if we balance the forces, okay, so let us say the balancing the all the forces in x-axis. So since this block is not moving anywhere, so if we have to balance the forces in the x-axis and in the y-axis, so if we balance the horizontal forces, we get T1 cos 60 equals to T2 cos 30. Now cos 60 comes out to be sine 30, which is 1 upon 2, and cos 30, which is sine 60, which is root 3 upon 2. These two get cancelled, so T1 comes out to be T2 into root 3. This is equation number 1 that we are getting from x-axis. If we consider the forces in the y direction, then we have downward force is mg and upward forces are these two forces, right? So mg in the downward direction, this is equals to T1 sine 30 and T1 sine 60 degrees plus T2 sine 30 degrees. Okay, so T1 sine 60 implies root 3 upon 2, and T2 sine 30 means 1 upon 2. Now if we consider the mass of the mass of the object is given as 1 kg. So mass is 1 kg and acceleration due to gravity is 10. So here we have 10 is equals to T1 root 3 plus T2 upon 2. This 2 comes over here, which becomes 20. So T1 root 3 plus T2. Now if we substitute this over here, so we have 20 is equals to T1 की जगह पे हम लोग डालेंगे T2 root 3 and this root 3, okay, plus T2. Okay, so what we are doing is substituting equation 1 in this equation. Now T2 into root 3, it means 3T2 plus T2 is equals to 20. So we have 4T2 is equals to 20, which implies T2 is 5 Newton. Now if we substitute this value in equation number 1, which is T1 is equals to T2 root 3, so T1 comes out to be T2 into root 3, which means 5 into root 3. So we have T1 as 5 root 3 and T2 as 5 Newton. If we check the options, so T1 is 5 root 3, which means first we want 5 root 3 and then 5. So A option is the correct option. Now please be careful while marking over here, because there is one more option like this. So this is not the correct option. This one is the correct option. Okay. So make sure which one you are calculating first, T1 or T2, and then accordingly. The question says a 2 kg block is pushed against a vertical wall. So this 2 kg block is given over here, and this is pushed against a vertical wall with a force of 50 Newton. Now the coefficient of static friction is given as 0.5, which means here mu is given as 0.5. The force F is acting upwards as shown in the figure on the block. The maximum value of F we have to find out. The value of G is given as 10 meter per second square. So to find out this, we have to first draw the free body diagram. For free body diagram, let us consider this 2 kg block over here. There is a force which is weight acting down in the downward direction. There is a force which is applied over here, which is given as 50 Newton, and there will be a force which is acting in this direction, which is the normal reaction given by the wall. Now uh, we have to apply a force in the upward direction. Let us check what will be the value of friction. So if we consider the value of friction, F is equals to mu into N. This is the formula for friction, calculating the friction. Now mu is given as 0.5. If we balance the forces in the x-axis, we get that the normal reaction is 50 newtons. So 0.5 into 50, which is half of 50, which is 25 Newton. Now friction force is more So what we can consider is, if we are applying the force in the upward direction, so the friction force will be acting in the downward direction. So let us consider the friction force over here, which is small f. Now this friction force is 25 Newton. If we calculate the weight, so weight का formula होता है m into g. The mass is given as 2 and the acceleration due to gravity is 10, which means the weight is 20 Newton. Now if we consider the free body diagram again, इधर अपने पास है 2 kg का ब्लॉक, नीचे एक्ट हो रहा है वेट विच इज 20 न्यूटन, देयर इज फ्रिक्शन फोर्स ओवर हियर विच इज 25 न्यूटन, and that is the x force, x direction forces are balanced. The forces that we can apply, the force F that we can apply on the block which is in the upward direction, so that the block does not move, which means the block is in the equilibrium. So if we balance the y-axis forces also by using this y-axis forces, so we get F is equals to these two forces, which is equals to 20 plus 25 Newton. So the total force that we can apply is 45 Newton in the upward direction, so that the block does not move. If we check the options over here, D option will be the correct answer. Okay. Now please make sure that you understand that the friction here is acting in the downward direction, because we are considering that the maximum force that is applied in the upward direction. Since the tendency of the block is to move in the upward direction, therefore the friction will be acting in the downward direction. If there was no force in the upward direction, then the block would have been tried to go down, which means the friction would act in the upward direction. But here, in this case, the friction is acting in the downward direction. So let us move to the next question. Let us take next question, which is the last one. Okay, let us take the fifth question. Question says a player caught cricket ball of mass 150 grams. So the ball's mass is given as 150 grams. Obviously we have to convert it to SI units like we have seen in previous questions. So if we have to divide by 1000, so this becomes 0.15 kg divided by 1000 karna hai. Now the ball is moving at a speed of 20 meter per second. So initial speed is given as 20 meter per second. If the catching process is completed in 0.1 second, so the player is catching a ball in 0.1 seconds. Now they are asking what is the magnitude of force exerted by the ball on the hands of the player. Now let us check the concept here says that whenever a ball is coming, so what we are doing is we are stopping it, so we are retarding. So acceleration की जगह पे यहाँ पे क्या है retardation. अगर हम लोग उसको रोक रहे हैं तो उसको फोर्स निकालने के लिए देयर इज टू फार्मूला. एक तो है बेसिकली F इज इक्वल्स टू ma एंड अदर उससे बेसिक वाला जो है जहां से हम लोग डिराइव करते हैं F इक्वल टू ma, which is Newton's second law of motion, which is force is proportional to rate of change of momentum. तो दोनों मेथड से कर सकते हैं हम लोग. F इक्वल टू ma से करके देखते हैं, इजीली हो जाएगा वो. तो लेट अस से द एक्सेलरेशन या फिर रिटार्डेशन, इस केस में नेगेटिव आने वाला है, बट हम लोग पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करके सॉल्व कर देंगे. ठीक है, बिकॉज ऑप्शंस जो है वो सारे के सारे पॉजिटिव दिए हैं इन्होंने. सो लेट अस टेक एक्सेलरेशन. एक्सेलरेशन निकालना है तो क्या होता है, चेंज इन वेलोसिटी अपॉन टाइम. सो चेंज इन वेलोसिटी इज v माइनस u अपॉन टाइम. नाउ एक्सेलरेशन निकालने के लिए फाइनल वेलोसिटी, जब प्लेयर कैच करता है बॉल तो उस बॉल को रोक रहा है इसका मतलब द फाइनल वेलोसिटी इज 0. द इनिशियल वेलोसिटी इज 20 meter per second and the time is given as 0.1. So this comes out to be minus 20 upon 0.1, which is 200 meter per second square. Obviously this is minus का मतलब इतना ही है कि रिटार्ड हो रहा है. ठीक है. So if we calculate the force is equals to mass into acceleration. इतना सिंपल सवाल है. Mass is 0.15 kgs and acceleration now we have calculated as 200. So ये 200 से 2 जीरो कट गए, ये पॉइंट और 2 जीरो चला जाएगा. 15 टू वी गेट द आंसर एज 30 न्यूटन. ठीक है. सो इसमें ऑप्शन है कि हाँ, सो सी ऑप्शन इज द करेक्ट आंसर विच इज 30 न्यूटन. चलो एक काम करते हैं, इसको दूसरे मेथड से भी सॉल्व कर देते हैं, विच इज फोर्स इज प्रोपोर्शनल टू या फिर इक्वल टू डायरेक्टली बाय रेट ऑफ चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम. तो रेट ऑफ चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम निकालने के लिए मुझे चेंज इन मोमेंटम निकालना है. पहले तो चेंज इन मोमेंटम निकालने के लिए क्या लिखेंगे, मास इनटू फाइनल वेलोसिटी माइनस मास इनटू इनिशियल वेलोसिटी. दिस इज द चेंज इन मोमेंटम. तो इनिशियल फाइनल वेलोसिटी तो हमारा जीरो है, तो ये पूरा का पूरा टर्म हो गया जीरो, खाली इनिशियल वेलोसिटी बचेगा, विच मीन्स माई चेंज इन मोमेंटम इज माइनस mu. So mass is 0.15 and speed is 20, which means here what we get is 15 to the 30 or एक 0 300, और इसका आंसर आएगा 300 into 10 raised to minus 2, मतलब let us consider this as 3 is the change in momentum. Okay, अभी अगर इसको ही हम लोग फोर्स निकालना है, तो फोर्स क्या बोलता है, चेंज इन मोमेंटम अपॉन टाइम. सो मोमेंटम चेंज इन मोमेंटम आया अपने को 3, और टाइम हम उसको चेंज मोमेंटम चेंज होने के लिए उसको टाइम लगा है 0.1 सेकेंड्स. सो इसका भी आंसर क्या आएगा, 30 न्यूटन. सो बाय बोथ मेथड्स, एनी मेथड यू फॉलो, द आंसर विल बी 30 न्यूटन्स. नाउ व्हाट वी हैव टू चेक हियर इज, यहाँ पे इस क्वेश्चन में तो ये सॉल्व हो रहा है बाय यूजिंग एफ इक्वल टू एम ए, बट अगर मोमेंटम किसी फंक्शन है किसी और वेरिएबल का, देन वी हैव टू यूज एफ इज इक्वल्स टू डीपी बाय dt. ओके, सो दिस वर द 5 क्वेश्चंस, 5 इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस. ऐसे मत सोचो ये इजी किसी को लग सकते हैं, क्योंकि भाई इसमें उतना ज्यादा दम नहीं है. हाँ, ये थोड़ा सा लेकिन इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस है. ओके, बट ऑल द क्वेश्चंस आर प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस, सो मेक श्योर दैट you study them properly. Okay, so let us solve one bonus question for you people. They are asking what is the angle between the force and the momentum. Okay, momentum is given as the function of time, which is I cos kt minus j sin kt. Now if we try to find out force, we should understand that the force is given as rate of change of momentum, which means we have to derivate the momentum to get the force. So if we derivate this momentum, then we get the derivative of cos kt will be minus sin kt into k, and the derivative of sin kt will be cos kt into k. So this, the force comes out to be, so basically this is the force. Now what they are asking is the angle between the force and the momentum. To find the angle between the force and the momentum, what we can do is, let us say force dot momentum. So F dot P, we will get this as F magnitude P magnitude into cos theta. Now to calculate this cos theta, theta is the angle between the force and the momentum. To calculate this cos theta, we have to first find out F dot P, and then we can divide them by their magnitudes. So let us first find out what is F dot P. So calculate F dot P. To calculate F dot P, what we have is force is minus I k sin kt minus k cos kt. Okay, this is J, and our momentum is I cos kt minus j sin kt. If we check more to find out the dot product, we have to multiply I with I and j term with j. So this will give you minus k sin kt into cos kt. This is the I term, and the j term will be minus into minus, this will become plus. So k cos kt into sin kt. Now if you observe properly, sin kt cos kt k, sin kt cos kt k. So basically these are the same terms. एक को plus sign है और एक को minus. So this whole term will get cancelled, and we get the f dot p as 0. Now if we see to calculate the cos theta, f dot p upon f magnitude and p magnitude. If we check properly, f dot p तो कितना आ रहा है 0. So 0 upon any number, this will give us fetch us 0. So cos theta 0 आ रहा है, इसका मतलब थीटा होना चाहिए 90 डिग्री. अगर हम लोग ऑप्शंस चेक करेंगे, तो ऑप्शंस में दे हैव गिवन द ऑप्शंस इन द रेडियंस. सो अपने को 90 डिग्री मतलब कौन सा होगा, ए ऑप्शन, विच इज पाई बाय 2. सो अपने को इसमें दो चीजें मेन याद रखने हैं कि फोर्स इज डेरिवेटिव ऑफ मोमेंटम, रेट ऑफ चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम विद रिस्पेक्ट टू टाइम, and one more is that to calculate the cos theta we have to do dot product एंड देन डिवाइड देम, बट डॉट प्रोडक्ट यहाँ पे कितना आ रहा है 0, तो वहीं से अपने को एंगल आ जाएगा विच इज π/2. नाउ thank you everyone for staying till here. So like, share and subscribe the channel.